Hey Goblin, you've been really practicing those war drums.
I'll bring the generic Goblin noise!
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. If you're looking for cards in the US, look no further as you can use the promo code MTGMudsta to get you 5% off anything on the site. Or if you're in Canada like me, you can use the same promo code at Multizone to get 10% off your orders of singles. If cards aren't what you're looking for, Original Magic Art has playmats, tokens, and sweet art that you can use that same promo code to help you get 5% off your order there. And if you just want to help out the channel, you can always consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month and join the generic Goblin gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game is another one with the Punt Squad, and I'm playing my Kolvory possibly for the last time. I've got a Forest, a Lightning Greaves, God Eternal Ronus, Scavenger Grounds, and Nisa's Pilgrimage. Adam is playing Magda, keeping a Mountain, Arid Mesa, Underworld Breach, Aggravated Assault, 2 7 Dwarves, and Wheel of Fortune. Scott is back with this monstrosity of a deck that is Morophon, keeping a Forest, Distant Melody, Maskwood Nexus, the Scarab God, Stomping Ground, Skeletal Changeling, and an Arcane Signet. Omar is rocking Licia, keeping Swords to Plowshares, a Mountain, Soul Ring, Plains, Fetid Heath, Villas Broker of Blood, and Agadeem's Awakening. Scott wins the die roll and starts us off. Before we get into the game though, I just want you to watch this for a minute.
Oh. That sound.
Super tilting. He draws and plays a tap Stomping Ground. Adam draws and plays an Arid Mesa, cracking it and losing 1 for a Mountain. Omar plays a Mountain and casts Soul Ring. I just play a Forest. Scott draws and plays a Murmuring Bosk, revealing a Skeletal Changeling so it comes in untapped. He casts an Arcane Signet and passes back to Adam. Adam plays a Mountain and casts 7 Dwarves and ships the turn. Omar draws and just plays a Plains. I play a Forge of Heroes and cast Lightning Greaves. Scott draws and plays a Mountain. He then casts a Maskwood Nexus, passing to Adam. Adam draws and plays out Magda. He swings the 7 Dwarves at Scott for 3, making a treasure as he attacks, and passes. Omar plays a Fetid Heath and ships the turn to me. I play a Forest and cast Reki, History of Kamigawa. I then equip the Greaves onto him and move the turn to Scott. Scott draws and plays a Forest. He casts the Scarab God and passes back to Adam. Adam draws and plays a Metallic Mimic, choosing Dwarf as it enters. He then moves to combat, swinging 5 at Omar, who takes it, 2 of which is commander damage from Magda. Adam also makes 2 more treasures as he swings, and passes to Omar. Omar draws and casts Blind Obedience. He follows up playing Spikefield Hazard as a land side and passes to me. I draw and play a Forest. I cast Nisa's Pilgrimage to go and find more forests and pass turn. Scott gets his Scarab God trigger on his upkeep, scrying 1 and keeping it on top, and then dealing 1 to all of us. He then casts a Firebelly Changeling, and then a Skeletal Changeling, and passes to Adam. Adam draws for turn, and casts another 7 Dwarves. It comes in tapped with a +1/+1 counter thanks to the Mimic, and he moves to combat. He swings what he can at Omar, who this time takes 8, and Adam makes 3 treasures from swinging with them. The treasures come in tapped though thanks to Blind Obedience as well, and Adam passes to Omar. Omar draws and plays an Arid Mesa, cracking it to find a Godless Shrine which he has come into play tapped. I draw and play a Forest. I cast Yisin the Wandering Bard, drawing a card from Reki seeing me cast a legendary spell. Sadly though, Yisin enters tapped, and I pass to Scott. Scott's upkeep has all of his opponents losing 3 life, and then he gets to scry 3 deep before drawing for turn. He plays Haven of the Spirit Dragon, and follows up by casting Mass Appeal. Scott then moves to combat, swinging the Scarab God at Adam for 5. Adam takes the hit, and Scott then passes. On Scott's end step though, Omar casts Swords to Plowshares and targets the Scarab God, and then uses Path to Exile on the Metallic Mimic. Both of the creatures then are exiled, with Scott gaining 5 and Adam going to find a mountain before moving to his turn. Adam draws and cashes in his treasures to cast Duretti. He then discards a Spine of Ishsa and a Wheel of Fortune to draw 2 before finally hitting a land to play. He then moves to combat, sending his 4/3 dwarf at me and the smaller one at Scott. Adam makes 2 more treasures, and Scott and I then take our hits, and Adam passes. Omar draws and plays a tapped Agadir in the Undercrypt and passes turn. My turn has me playing a Scavenger Grounds, and I cast Growing Rites of Itlamok. I reveal a Vorinclex Monstrous Rider off the top 4, putting it to hand. I then cast the Bestest Boy, Mo Loyal Companion, drawing a card and passing. Scott draws and plays a Fabled Passage, sacrificing it to go and find a forest. He then casts a Chameleon Colossus, and after that passes. At the end of his turn, Adam sacrifices 5 treasures to go into his library with Magda's ability to put to field an Academy Manufactor. Adam draws and casts Chaos Warp, targeting the Blind Obedience. It gets shuffled into Omar's library and flips him into a Murderous Rider. Adam then upticks Duretti, discarding some cards to draw that many. Moving to combat, he swings the 2 7 dwarves and Magda at Omar. Omar decides to block Magda with the Rider. Before damage though, Adam sacrifices 5 more treasures to tutor for a Bogardan Hellkite, which as it enters, shoots the Rider for 3 and shoots the Firebelly and Skeletal Changeling for 1 apiece. Scott pays to regenerate the Changeling, and Omar then takes the hit for 9. After combat's done, Adam plays another 7 dwarves and passes. At the end of turn, Omar casts a Heliod's Intervention where X is 5, gaining 10 life. Omar draws for turn and in his main phase casts Villas. He then plays a Verdant Catacombs, cracking it to lose 1 life, and draws a card before going to find a land. He grabs an untapped Blood Crypt, shocking himself for 2, and draws another 2 cards thanks to Villas. He then passes turn. My turn is quite quick as I cast Joriel Moonvali Recluse, and then in each tech Salvage Splicer, making a golem as it comes in. We then move to my end step, and I transform my Growing Rites into Itlamok, Cradle of the Sun. Scott draws, and casts Distant Melody, drawing 3 cards. He then casts a Masked Vandal, exiling a creature as it comes in to exile the Manufacturer. Scott then plays an Unclaimed Territory, naming Merfolk, and then casts a Guardian Gladewalker, which as it comes in, puts a +1/+1 counter onto Chameleon Colossus. Adam draws, and upticks Duretti in his main phase to discard 2 and draw 2. He then casts an Aggravated Assault, but with no good attacks, has to pass. Omar draws and casts a Talisman of Hierarchy, and then takes a damage off of it to help cast a Loxodon Faithmender, and draws a card from Villas. He then foretells a mystery card, and passes, and at the end of turn, I activate Yissen, but fail to find a 1-drop. I draw and cast Gillenra, Caller the Wirewood, and then play a Force for turn. Once that's done, I follow up with Vorinclex and pass. Scott draws and plays an Exotic Orchard. He casts Reflections of Licia, naming Merfolk as well. Moving to combat, he swings the Colossus at Omar, and Omar chumps it with the Loxodon. With damage being dealt, Omar gains 2, and once that's done, Scott passes. Adam draws and casts a Faithless Looting, drawing 2 and discarding 2. He then casts an Underworld Breach and uses it to cast Chaos Warp, targeting Villas. Omar responds by casting his Foretold Glorious Protector to temporarily save the demon. Moving to combat, Adam then swings the Hellkite at me, dealing 5, and passes. Omar draws for turn, and in his main phase casts Bolas' Citadel. He casts Divinity of the Pride off the top, losing 5, and then a Viscopa Guildmage. He then casts a Chandra's Ignition, targeting the Divinity, and wipes away all small creatures, but gains a whopping 84 life. Omar then follows up with the planes off the top and passes to me. I draw and play a Blackblade Reforged, and then move to equip it to Vorinclex. Moving to combat, I swing what I can at Scott, dealing 15, and pass. Scott draws and plays a Path of Ancestry. He then casts a Realm Walker naming Sliver, and thanks to the reflections, makes a second one and names Merfolks for that one. He then plays a Vizier of the Menagerie and makes another one from the reflections as well, but with no creatures on top, 2 Viziers does a whole lot of nothing. Adam draws and down ticks to ready to sacrifice a treasure and bring back the Spine of Ishsa. He then recasts Magda and plays another 7 dwarves, passing to Omar. Omar draws and plays a Swamp. He activates Vilis to shrink the Vizier, losing 2 and drawing 2. He follows up with a Phyrexian Reclamation and activates it to bring back the Vizkopa Guildmage, losing another 2. Omar then recasts the Guildmage, and once it's resolved, activates its first ability to give Vilis lifelink, and then activates its second ability so that every time he gains life, his opponents take that much. He swings Vilis at me and the Divinity at Scott, and Scott and I each take 8, while everyone takes a total of 16 thanks to Omar gaining 16 life from lifelink. At this point, Scott is taken out, and Omar passes to me. I draw and cast God Eternal Ronus, doubling Vorinclex's power before moving to combat. Moving to combat, I swing Vorinclex at Omar for 30, which under normal circumstances would be considered a lot of damage, but in this case he's happy to take the damage as he draws 30 cards thanks to Vilis. Adam draws and plays a mountain, but with nothing to stop Omar's million life, not to mention all the cards he's drawn, we all decide that we're dead anyway and scoop it up. Game review time. So I'm not entirely sure at what point the game turned towards Omar's favor, but it seemed like near the end turns he was really in control. If I had to guess, I think it would be the turn that he had Vilis coming down and no one had a way to remove the creature. This just meant that any attack that wasn't lethal would help Omar change his plan from going from aggro into his combo, so it was kind of hard to justify attacking him. Adam's Magda deck continues to impress me, and I'm not entirely sure if you're aware of this, but there was a pretty big CDH tournament where she actually won that tournament, and she's just a great toolbox commander in red. There's so much treasure support nowadays that it's easy to have enough to sacrifice and go and find whatever artifact or dragon you need. Kolvory unfortunately is just not any fun. It's a legendary only deck, but it's not particularly well built, and I'm going to take it apart for something else. Hopefully that earlier footage of Scott's Morophon deck being Rife Shuffled didn't trigger you too much. But despite the fact that he's a monster for playing without sleeves, I kinda love his deck. It reminds me very much of Tomer's tribal deck with Ur-Dragon at the helm, only this is Morophon, so it makes the other changelings bigger. It also runs a lot of the best lords, so they just keep getting bigger and having sweet abilities, and I just kinda like that kind of effect. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.